So today we start really doing kind of some heavy lifting. And we'll see how far we get. We'll see how far we get. But I might need to take a request for at least part of tomorrow. So we're gonna, so yesterday I looked at just in kind of a little taste, like the way the sources we use to reconstruct Old Chinese are internal reconstruction of Middle Chinese, rhymes in the Jing, Shesheng series, Hongja, loanwords, that kind of thing. Yeah. So now I'm gonna dive a little bit more deeply into at least some of them, starting with Middle Chinese. So when I was presenting sort of the sources for Middle Chinese overall, I already covered some of this, but you'll see it again, and that will help you remember it if you wouldn't otherwise. And if you know it like the back of your hand, then you will feel bored. So those are the options. So the Cheiyun, written in 601 by Mr. Lu Fayan, and this is the guy who attended the dinner party with his father, right? Okay. And then the Changmu Fu Chui Cheiyun, which is the first one we actually have complete, and then the Guanyin, which was published in let's say 1008, and that's one we have always had. You know, the Wang version was rediscovered in the 40s in the palace. Okay, so what phonetic information is explicitly in the rhyme books? Well, and I've covered this before, but it's good to do again this time. Kind of top down. The tone, yeah, how is the tone encoded? It's just which volume of the book it is. Right? So there's two volumes, Pingsheng, then Chusheng, Shangsheng, Rusheng. So as soon as you have in your hands a volume of the rhyme book, you know what tone the characters are, right? And then it's the rhyme category, and that's where you and that's sort of chapters in the book, if you like, yeah. So rhyme category. And then within the rhyme category, the homophone groups, and that was those, you remember those large characters with a circle between each homophone group. Okay, and then phonetic information that's implicitly in the rhyme books. And I won't actually, let's say, in other times I've taught Chinese historical phonology, I've gone into exactly how you extract each of these carefully from the rhyme books, and I won't take the time for that here. But let's say there's the rhyme category via rhyme chains. So you can, take the pronunciation of a character, take its called lower fanche, which is say the second member of the fanche, which tells you about the rhyme, and then you can look that one up, and then you can look up its rhyme fanche, and then you can look up its rhyme fanche, and you get a series. Something like if I say cake is cat plus bake, and bake is snot plus bake is bat plus snake, and snake is snot plus cake or something, right? Then I can make this, then it must be that cake and bake and snake all have the same rhyme, yeah? And then you can actually look at because the rhymes are also explicitly given, is it the case that bake and snake and cake are all put in the same chapter? Yeah. So anyhow, you see what I mean? Like one is given explicitly, like the rhyme category. There's a big character that says, this is the tone category. And then there's an implicit kind of re-encoding of the rhyme through the fanche chains. And then there's also onset chains. So in this case, we take something like, I don't remember the chain I gave, but bake is, let's say cat is, what did I say? Cake. Cake is cat plus bake. So now we go through the top one. We say cake is cat plus bake. Cat is catharsis plus, okay, cat is, let's just, that's okay. Okay, cake is cat plus bake. Cat is cookie plus bookie. Yeah, bookie is someone who takes bets at a betting shop, right? And then cookie, no, and then, wait, what did I say for
Yeah,
cookie?
cookie, like cookie for that.
Yeah, and then maybe cookie is cucumber. No, see that's it. It's quite hard to. I was gonna say. Oh, yeah, so cookie is cane plus rookie, yeah. And then at some point you go back. Cane is cat plus Bane or something like that, right? And you get these circles of, and then if you're lucky, you get one circle for one chain for each initial, but you might it might just be an artifact of the way that the book was written, that you get 2 chains for one initial or 3 chains for one initial, and then how do you actually figure out how many initials there are by uniting those chains? I'm not going to deal with that. That gets into stuff that I don't really have time for, but I have handled in some of the videos that are online. Anyhow, so rhyme category and onset chains are given implicitly through the function chains in the rhyme books. And then the divisions are also given implicitly, and that I will go into here because I think it's more complicated, maybe, or I don't know, somehow it feels like it's worth going through. Yeah. So then, what's in the rhyme tables? Yeah. Well, what are the rhyme tables? So there's 2. The Ying published in 1161, and then this other one. There's also there's a few little typos having to do with like LaTeX and Unicode. Please forgive them. But so that's the Jinqi, which was also published in 1161. So it was a very good year for rhyme tables, and it's part of this Tongzhi encyclopedia. They're almost exactly the same, but they use different terminology, and it's speculated that there was a tradition of rhyme tables before that. Actually, just like it's speculated, and I think we know actually because of the preface, there were rhyme books before the chain, but we don't have them. Yeah. So those are that's the sources, and what information is given in the rhyme tables. Well, the rhyme category, the initial category, the rank, and whether or not it has a medial W. So I went through this before. The medial W is encoded. The rhyme and the medial, and whether or not it has a medial W are encoded in the upper right hand corner of the page as a whole. Yeah. So it's more explicit, you see, right? Like we get rhyme and initial and this rank explicitly. Okay, so now let's look at, so now we look at the initials of early Middle Chinese, and some of you will know that I'm kind of, there are more initials that we can recover using the function chains in the Cheiyun than the initials given in the rhyme tables, and I'm not going to go into that. So just we'll say this is where we start, is this list of initials. Okay. So now we're going to come up with the divisions from the rhyme books. So finally, I'm going, I've sort of repeated several times. I think dung, when we're talking about tables, we call rank. The dung, when we're talking about books, we call division. So what are the divisions? Because what the ranks are is clear enough. They're just where is the character put on the page physically, right? Okay. So I'm going to make this in 2 steps. The first, we're sort of rising from the tables to the books, yeah. So we have to start with the tables and this kind of purely typographical or let's say codicological fact of how characters are arranged, and then we want to get to a definition of divisions that makes no reference to the tables at all, yeah. And we have to do that in sort of 2 steps. And then I would say it's like, I don't know, a lot of people might know, Wittgenstein has this thing about once you go up the ladder, you kick the ladder away, right? So that's what we'll do with that's the function that the tables have, because we don't want to do linguistics based on page formatting. Yeah? So instead, we use the page formatting, and then we find a way to, once we realize what's going on, to not make reference to it, yeah? Okay, so here there was a gentleman Mr. Zhang Yong, who came up with this idea. And what we do is we look up characters in each Che-Yun rhyme category to see which rank they're in the rhyme tables. Yeah. Now, generally speaking, actually, it's maybe even rigorously true, but I haven't tried it, so I don't know. But generally speaking, each homophone group in the Che-Yun is put somewhere in the Yunjing. Yeah. So the idea is the Yunjing is telling you about syllables, not about characters, and then you just know because you have your copy of the Che-Yun nearby. You know whatever information you get on a particular character in the Yunjing can extend to the whole homophone group in the Che-Yun. Yeah. So that's the way I think that like the people who made the Yunjing intended it to be used. So this guy thought, okay, then I'll just look. I'll just find for each homophone group, or at least each rhyme, yeah, where are characters from that rhyme put in the Yunjing, yeah? And here are the patterns. There are, so these are so the rhyme categories of the Che-Yun divide into 4 classes according to where they occur in the ranks of the Yunjing. And here they are. There are rhymes in the Che-Yun that contain characters that appear in rank 1 only. So, you know, these ones we can call division 1 rhymes. Yeah. Then there are rhymes that contain characters that appear in rank 2 only. And those rhymes we could call division 2 rhymes. Yeah. Okay. Now you thought, oh, this is pretty straightforward. Well, this is where we mess it up a bit. So there's a category of rhymes that contain mostly characters that appear in rank 3, but also contain characters that appear in rank 2 or 4. Yeah. So this is where, so I'm going to call those division 3 rhymes. Yeah. and that's why you need to distinguish between ranks and divisions. Yeah. And then we have rhymes that contain only characters put into rank 4. So for 1, 2, and 4, we can make is it a surjection from the rhyme categories of the Che-Yun onto the Yunjing. Yeah, but we can't do that for this division 3 rhymes, and you can't kind of go backwards very easily, right? Like if you have a character from rank 2, well, it could be division 2 rhyme, or it could be division 3 rhyme. Yeah, you have to be a little cautious. Although it does seem like for 4 and no, for 1 only, yeah, for 1 only is there a sort of bijection between the ranks and the divisions in terms of like, if something's in division 1, it's in rank 1. If something's in rank 1, it's in division. You know, with the caveat that there are just a lot fewer characters in the Yunjing than are in the Che-Yun, right? Okay, so now in a sense we've done it. We've gotten our divisions out of our ranks, except that these definitions refer to the ranks. So we're still sort of tied to the page formatting of this particular book, right? And that's where I would say these are sort of divisions 1.0, if you like. These divisions are sort of epistemologically hybrid beasts. So they're a combination of rhyme categories of the Che-Yun and ranks of the rhyme table. So it's like what we're talking about. Like it's talking about sort of very abstract relationships between categories in 2 books. One is the rhyme categories of one book, which are basically like chapters, and then the other one is like lines in the page formatting of another book. So we want to finally get to some linguistics at some point and say like, yeah, what are we actually talking about in terms of sounds? So that's what we're going to do next. This is our sort of divisions 2.0, yeah? And here, what it relies on is the observation that the divisions, so we're talking about the divisions we just made, our sort of 1.0 divisions, the way that we've defined them so far, which is basically about page, like about codicological facts in two books, kind of coincides with distributional classes of initials in the Cheyun, and that allows us, that coincidence allows us to paraphrase our divisions according to those initials. Yeah. So then we can make a kind of Cheyun internal definition of the divisions without reference to the Yunjing. So that is this sort of picture that I showed you before, which is if there is, and this will still seem a little mechanical, so sorry about that. It just happens to be the fact of the matter, yeah. But so our division 1.0 rhymes, which is a certain rhyme categories in the Cheyun, which you can see as essentially arbitrary, happens to have words or morphemes, yeah, syllables with initial L, dental initials, and affricate initials, but not with retroflex palatable or palatable, sorry, affricate retroflex, yeah? So then you can say, if I see a rhyme in the Cheyun that has, characters in it that have Fanjie chains that have initial L and dentals and affricate, then I'll call that rhyme a division 1 rhyme. Yeah, okay. And likewise for division 2, division 3, and division 4, where the point is just that these checks are in like together, the checks in each row uniquely characterize that row, right? That's the point. So we have a kind of barcode, if you like, for defining each division. And like the division is the class of rhymes that are compatible with those initials. I feel like this is, any questions so far? Yeah. Okay. I mean, it's, you can say, why are we doing this? Yeah. Maybe that's a legitimate question. But let's say we're getting to know our primary sources. Yeah. We're getting to know what's the relationship between the ranks of the Yunjing and the initials and rhymes of the Cheyun. Yeah. Okay. So now we've done it, and you can say those are divisions 2.0, yeah? And if someone says, and I think this is correct actually, like if anyone out there in the world says division, and they're talking about Chinese historical phonology, you can assume they mean this. They mean my division 2.0, and then depending on the context, you might say, oh, they actually mean rank, yeah? But my division 1.0 existed only to get me from ranks to divisions. Yeah, and these are like, how can I say, can be defined purely in relationship to the Cheyun. So we have managed to make some sense, if you like, of this of these ranks in the Yunjing in terms of finally we have at least a statement about co-occurrence patterns of rhymes and initials in the Cheyun, and we don't have a statement about how someone formatted a book in 1008. Yeah, so I think that's good. Now, can we use it for anything? And if so, what? You will see more soon. Yeah. But then the next thing I will point out is let's see if it's this. Yeah. Okay. So now I'm just going to point out that division 1 and division 4 have the same co-occurrence patterns, which is to say you actually can't distinguish division 1 and division 4 purely on Cheyun internal evidence. Yeah. But people still talk about division 1 and division 4. what can I tell you? Yeah. But you could say from the Che-Yun's perspective, and maybe I should have had an intermediate slide that does this. We have division 1/4, division 2, and division 3. And now if I look at, I'll just get rid of these two. You also see that the division 1 and division 2 are in complementary distribution. Yeah. So like I'm going to allow myself to combine divisions 1 and 4 because they happen to be indistinguishable in the Che-Yun as like a source. And then I'm going to allow myself to combine division 1 and 4 with division 2 because they're in complementary distribution. So there's no loss of information in doing so. Now I realize that those are sort of two totally orthogonal reasons for combining things. In the one case, there's an enormous amount of information in the distinction. It just happens to be that that information is not recoverable from the Che-Yun. So we can't make the distinction in the Che-Yun. Yeah. And then in the other case, it actually really is kind of, I don't know, proper linguistics to combine them, because saying that something is division 2 or saying that it's division 1 isn't actually necessarily giving us any information separately from its initial, right? Because if I see a character with a retroflex initial, now I know it's division 2. Yeah. And I don't need to remember that the rhyme that it goes with is also division 2. Yeah. So it sort of reduces redundancy. So if you go along with me with both of these things, so combining 1 and 4 and combining 1/4 with 2, then we get only 2 categories, which are type A and type B. Yeah. And type A means non-division 3, and type B means division 3. Yeah. And the point that I really want, that I don't know, somehow to me it's very important to make, is that this analysis, if you like, and this analysis with respect to the Che-Yun are both valid. They're both ways of stating co-occurrence patterns of initials and rhymes in the Che-Yun. Yeah. Now, as a matter of practice, when we talk about Middle Chinese, we talk about divisions. And when we talk about Old Chinese, we talk about types. So that's why I've, like, if you're like, okay, why did you just, what made you want to combine your 4 divisions into your 2 types? The answer is because let's say most sound changes from Old Chinese to Middle Chinese behave differently, whether they're in type A or type B. And so type A, type B is a very, very salient kind of conditioning environment in Old Chinese. Yeah, so let's say I'll make 2 passes at what I'm trying to say. One is, if you like to do Middle Chinese phonology, you need to talk about divisions. And if you like to do Old Chinese phonology, you need to talk about types. That's the first thing I'm trying to tell you. But then the second one is, just notice that actually both are like valid ways of looking at distributional co-occurrence classes in the Che-Yun. It is not the case that sort of Old Chinese has the A-B distinction and Middle Chinese has divisions. It's the Che-Yun is the source for both ideas, and in fact they're just 2 ways of looking at the same patterns. Yeah. Okay, so now we have explained what is the relationship between ranks and divisions, and also what is the relationship between between divisions and types. Okay. So now let's do something with all of this and actually start reconstructing Old Chinese. So the first thing we will do is notice that, which was already on this chart, that basically there are no initial L words in division 2 syllables. So, this chart that I showed you is a slight exaggeration, because in the Guanyun, there actually are 21 such words, yeah, or 21 such characters. and here they are. So probably these aren't characters you use a lot. Yeah, that's what I that's what I'm guessing. And
Except one.
except one,
Except two.
Code one.
The code.
Lang.
yeah.
Fourth line. And nan.
Well, you know, then I assign you as homework to explain to yourself why you use these extremely odd characters. But I know from a blog Gongshun wrote that actually the and I guess it's not in the most standard speller's name, but the Lu in An Lu Shan is in here, yeah, and that's because he was a foreigner, yeah. so his name had a funny character in it, yeah. Yeah, and yeah, so most of these are not very like these are not old characters, and anyhow they're quite marginal. So like I set them aside. Okay. So we remind ourselves of the Sheshang, you know, hypothesis. So you know that if two things are in the same series, they should have the same initial, or no, they should have homo-organic initials. Sorry, and they should have the same rhyme. So now I'm going to show you some series. Yeah, well, you can look at them first before I give you the Middle Chinese and just say, oh, is there anything funny going on here? Yeah. Okay, so now we look at them. So is Cam and Lam, do they have homo-organic initials? No. Yeah. Okay. So it's a violation of the Sheshang hypothesis. Yeah? And then you see the other ones are also violations of the Sheshang hypothesis. So here the problem is this bound. Yeah. Here this is a wild one, right? So we even have this Mac and cock and whatnot. So anyhow, these are violations of the Sheshang hypothesis. So we want to come up with some hypothesis that will get rid of them. Yeah, get rid of the problem, make them all homo-organic, and also make them all have the same rhyme category, which they don't. Right? You see some of them, like in the first row, the first two are in division 1 rhymes, whereas the second and third character are division 2 rhymes. So we want to make the rhymes the same and the initials homo-organic. So Georg von der Gabelens, in his 1881 Grammar of Chinese, suggested, why don't we reconstruct KL clusters here? And he didn't, I don't think he really, okay, let's say, well, I'm anticipating a problem. We'll see whether you mind, yeah, okay. So he said, let's take these Ks, like in this first one, and change them to KLs. Now he actually was not, you know, he was basing that basically on the mere fact that the Sheshang series should mean their pronunciation was similar. He didn't have a kind of strict notion of the Sheshang hypothesis, yeah? And then here is a list of people who have followed his interpretation, yeah? Okay, so now we have, you know, if we reconstruct, you know, cam or something as clam, yeah, then I don't know, then maybe they're homo-organic. It at least looks a lot better, right? Okay. So Yakantov kind of in a more recent period had this, you know, said, yeah, this is a good idea. And if there's a so kind of more generally, if there's a Sheshang connection between an initial L and a consonant C, so in a Sheshang connection between L and C, C is not lateral, right? Like you don't, except for in the word for like among those very rare cases, you don't have division 2 lateral initials, yeah. And then characters with C are division 2, yeah. So let's just convince ourselves that this is right? So you look and like in the second one, the one that's non-L is division 2, yeah. It's this Mac, yeah. And then also in the third one, the one that's non-L is division 2. It's this bang, yeah. So there's something like division 2 and L sort of have some very strong connection, but cannot co-occur. Yeah, they're like opposite poles of the same magnet or something like that. Okay. So then, what does it mean? He proposes that the L, a medial L, is what explains the division 2 rhymes. Yeah. So basically, if you had original clam, it becomes can. Yeah. And if you have original lam, it stays lam. So now we have kind of actually achieved success as far as the rhyme component of the Schuessler hypothesis goes. We've taken lam and can and made them both have the rhyme and we haven't quite achieved the having homoorganic initials, but we sort of have, because we have at least gotten an L into the K initial, syllable. Okay, so that's what Joachim said. And then we just noticed that this medial L that we are currently toying with as an idea oftentimes corresponds to an R in Tibeto-Burman in words like 8 and 100 and bear and blouse. And then also the medial L can correspond to R or L in loanwords like river, oops, I should have said clone for that first one. But okay. And then the initial L, so the line also seems to correspond to initial clusters with R in other languages. So we get like this Luan, which is harness bells. According to Bodman, there's I don't know a word for prototype for harness bells that starts with bruh. Yeah, I don't know anything about prototype. And then for indigo, we have this lam in Middle Chinese, and in Thai we have kram, indigo. So so it seems like both L initial and our brand new L medial from van der Gabelens are related to R's in Tibeto-Burman and other places. Yeah. Okay, but now sort of we were all very happy for a while to have these nice L medial clusters. Yeah. But then we notice another problem, which is a violation of the Schuessler hypothesis. And here Yunfan is using IPA to just make it a little bit easier on your brain. So you can actually say, okay, I know what the sounds are. So we look at like, okay, these two characters which have, or I mean, the whole row, right? We have some violations of the Schuessler hypothesis. First of all, in this case, even in one character, you can have an initial ya or initial ta. Those are not homoorganic, yeah? And you have two different rhymes, this oi or ui rhyme, and this just I rhyme. So it's a violation of the Schuessler hypothesis. And then in this next one, we have, well, actually the rhyme doesn't look so bad, but the initial, we also have dentals mixing with yas. Okay. So how do we explain it, which is to say again, how do we continue to believe that the Schuessler hypothesis is true despite this apparent counter evidence? This is what I was talking about, the empirico-dogmatic method, right? Rather than saying, oh, look, we falsified the Schuessler hypothesis, never mind, we throw it away. No, we say we stick to the Schuessler hypothesis despite any bump in the road, yeah? And the answer is basically, we have to do something with an L, right? If you see a da and a ya together in life, you need an L, yeah? So, just think of, well, I'll just go with the example that's here, yeah? So we have things like Stella becomes Streda in Sardinian, but it becomes Estrella in Spanish. Yeah, and like seriously, if you ever see, this is life advice. If you ever see in any linguistic context dentals and yas having some kind of relationship, then reconstruct it out. Yes.
Or you can reconstruct the palatal stop, which also becomes a dental in a lot of languages.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, but we're gonna reconstruct an L. for one thing, we already have a palatals. Yeah. Okay. So let's do it. Yeah. And here's what we'll propose. We'll propose that. And this now already you're seeing A-B distinction coming in, and actually let's just look back at these ones, yeah. So this is, I mean, it's kind of tautological actually, but this is division 1, division 1, division 3, division 3, division 3. But let's say you or type, yeah. So what am I going to say? We can say that, let's say D, for instance, and ya are in complementary distribution with respect to type. So this is what I was saying about like in Old Chinese, you do this a lot. You say sort of, I want something that becomes A and B, or I should say X and Y. And then you notice that, oh, it becomes X in type A syllables, it becomes Y in type B syllables. So you can use the type A-B distinction as the conditioning environment that gives you the two outcomes you want. Yeah. So we're doing that here. So L becomes D in type A syllables, and L becomes Y or ya in type B syllables. So here we're just using this J to indicate type B syllable, which is to say division 3, right? And then let's just say that the voiceless version of the D comes from the voiceless version of the L. Yeah. So now we've reconstructed L and Hl into Old Chinese, and we have managed to save the Sheshang hypothesis. Yeah. For these cases of sort of ya dental contact in Sheshang series. So that's lovely, and that's a very nice result. But now we have a problem, which is we want to use L for two different things. Yeah. So people like Goblins use L for explaining the origin of division 2, and we've just thought that maybe we should use L for explaining the alternation in Sheshang series. So we have to choose which one we're going to go with, and the field has decided we're using L for the dental palatal glide contact because because L's do that and R's don't. Yeah, so we really need the L for that, and then we can just say that we use R for the other thing that we had been tempted to use L for. Yeah. So like I said, this let's say provisional L corresponds to R in Tibeto-Burman and in Thai. So why don't we just reconstruct R? And then we don't need to, we need somehow the R, an L to have come from an R anyhow. So we'll just use R instead. Yeah. And this may seem a little inefficient to you in terms of why didn't I just propose R in the first place? Yeah. Well, we were starting with Laimu, and so L seemed more obvious, right? And it's also the way the field worked, right? Like the field said, oh, let's reconstruct L clusters. Oh, never mind. Let's reconstruct R clusters. Yeah, because we wanted to use the L for something else. So yeah, so now we're going to use R. And here is our result. So medial R becomes division 2, and initial R becomes Laimu and not division 2. And then those 21 characters that were, problems for us, need some, ad hoc explanation one by one. Yeah. Okay, so now you should see this is but now you see sort of we laid out all our tools basically. We say okay, we have Middle Chinese, we have rhymes in the Shijing, blah blah blah. We have these loan words. We laid out all these tools, and now we're starting to do the reconstruction. And so far, we have and the thing we're doing narrowly now is we're trying to look at distributional classes in Middle Chinese and sort of force them to make the Shesheng hypothesis work in Shesheng series. And this has resulted, today in a hypothesis about the origin of division 2, the origin of Laimu, and the origin of dental and ya contacts in Shesheng series. Okay, so that's the end of that one. And let's just see how much time. I still have quite a bit of time, so I will queue up the next one, but maybe I will also take some questions. Questions? Is there some, where are my friendly helpers?
I guess I could also note that for evidence for the naturals, there is like a transcription of Alexandria into China, into like Hanzi Chinese. And for the second syllable, they use a character from one of the purported L series for the le. I think it was specifically yu. Yes. Yeah, I think right.
Sure, but let's also open my new presentation.
I need to check what actually the form is.
Is it just like this?
Yeah, I think it's that.
Yeah, reconstruction
Yeah.
link, I think.
Yeah. So it's yeah, it's
Yeah, so
leak.
well, it's like
Like fan.
yeah, this, but let's just use this from the word.
Yeah.
So the comes from this.
I actually think there's, just since we're talking about this, the sand is, I believe, the mountain word, right? Which is weird because
Oh, yeah.
this is reconstructed by Baxter Sagart somehow.
Yeah, I think like by the Chinese time, it's probably already collapsed down to a sub. I think.
For the initial, fine, but it should still have a final R, right? Maybe it's a bit of a problem.
I don't know, I think it already split into the nine year from.
Yeah, when did it split? That's the question. And I think this is a relatively early, because this is Western Han, yeah. So generally, I think, I mean, I don't remember exactly, but I think they say that this R splits in kind of, or they use some evidence from a transcription of Lokakshema to argue that it's still R, yeah. So Lokakshema is kind of Eastern Han, yeah. So anyhow, this is something, sorry for most of you, we've just sort of fallen down a little rabbit hole. But where, let's say, Jinqi, can you ask, are there any questions online to deal with? Oh, I thought someone was maybe logged in already.
So one student asked if that's it is. And speaking of the infamous so
Never mind. Okay. Okay, then I get started on this one. Whoops. Right, so this is just, we're back to our list of sources for reconstructing Old Chinese. And there they are, yeah. Okay, now we're going to look at rhyme evidence more, yeah. So the primary corpus used for reconstructing Old Chinese is the Shijing, and I think kind of irrationally so, right? Like the amount of scholarship that has gone into the Shijing kind of like outweighs the amount that's gone into the Chutsu by like 1,000 to 1 or something. So why? Like it doesn't make any sense to me. So one thing I would encourage all of you to do in the course of your careers is like look at things other than the Shijing. Yeah. But okay, so there are other Cretan texts that contain rhyme passages like the Chutsu, the Zhouyi, the Yili, Zhuan, the Lao Tzu, and others. Yeah, and more are being dug up out of the ground every day. Yeah, and I will mention that actually there was this website that I showed on the first day where Professor Suzuki has made this website where there are like you can have like the text of a particular poem and then it shows the rhyme annotations that different people have made, including the Qing phonologists and then also more recent scholarship like Lo Changpei and yeah, so you can use that, and then also we have scraped his website and have a machine readable version of it. So and that actually at his request we don't share widely, but if you actually want it for your own research, you can talk to me and maybe we can make a deal. Yeah. But that is quite, we've already found very useful, right? Because then rather than just yourself like reading the Chutsu and saying, oh, I wonder if this rhymes, you can have some digital humanities approaches to looking at rhyme. And in a project in London with Julian Bailey as my postdoc, we're doing some of that these days. And stay tuned for exciting results that almost all have to do with the final S actually. But, okay. So we're going to look at a poem from the Book of Odes, and we're going to look at it. This example comes from Baxter, 1992, right? And we're going to look at it in Putonghua because we have to start somewhere. And then here are the rhyme words, and then you look at them and you say, zai you duo luo jie xie, yeah, and these still rhyme, yeah. and these also still rhyme, yeah. So this is how, like, even if you just as a native speaker of Putonghua pick up the Shijing and start reading it, you can convince yourself that it was intended to rhyme, yeah. Now, what rhyme patterns in which poems? That's an extremely tricky question, yeah. But it rhymes. But Cai and Yo, they do not rhyme. And they don't even rhyme in Middle Chinese, yeah. So this is the sort of thing we want to fix, right? Like we want our reconstruction of Old Chinese to make the Shijing at least rhyme better than it does in Putonghua, yeah, or in Middle Chinese. So that's just to say this is in kind of, I want to sort of sketch out how the logic is the same as in the Shesheng series, right? In the Shesheng series, we looked at Ma, we looked at this Bie, and we said, it looks like the Shesheng series are trying to have homoorganic initials and trying to have the same rhymes, and it's our job to help them do that, yeah? And in the same way, the Shijing is trying to rhyme, but it doesn't rhyme, so we need to help it rhyme better, yeah? Okay. So, and then I'll say on the whole, we should assume that at the time that people were writing Old Chinese, they were actually talking like they wrote, yeah? And it's important to say this because in a Chinese cultural context, it's just very tempting to say, well, maybe the reason why they rhymed so and yo, zai rather and yo, is because there was some textbook that told them they should do it that way, yeah? Yeah, that is true for a lot of Chinese history, but probably not at that time, right? So probably they were actually just talking like they talked. Yeah, okay. So the foundations of analyzing Old Chinese rhymes were laid by Chinese scholars in the Qing Dynasty. This is the, you know, what's the Chinese term? The cow something movement. These sort of. Yeah, yeah. Say it louder. Yeah. And what do we call it in English? We call it the sort of like evidential, yeah. There we go, yeah. The evidential movement, yeah. And the usual explanation is it got so hard to pass the imperial examinations that you had all of these kind of bored rich people who were extremely well educated and had the Shijing memorized. Yeah. So then they were like, well, I can't run a province. What am I going to do? I'll write about historical phonology. Yeah. And then I'll also say that one thing that grieves me and should grieve you is okay, I don't know about, you know, Baxter Sagart and Chomsky, but I think it's true actually. Yeah, it is true. I was in a bookstore in Scotland, in Edinburgh, and just normal bookstore, right? And then they have in the biography section, biography of Baxter Sagart, biography of Chomsky, and then of course there's biographies of Locke and, you know, whatever, all sorts of great intellectuals. I like, despite how committed to learning Chinese society is, you know, you go into a Chinese bookstore, you do not find like popular science books about people like Duan Yucai. And I think this shows that we have not recovered yet from the century of humiliation, right? And need to stand on our own 2 feet and to take pride in telling China's story well. Yeah, so so I also say, from the perspective of history of linguistics as a discipline, very little is written about Chinese linguistics, and the people who do work on Chinese linguistics, like as a intellectual movement in the 19th century, do it as Chinese historians, and they know nothing about linguistics. So they write, I would say, quite badly about the actual intellectual achievements of these people. Anyhow, so so this particular research agenda of studying rhyming patterns in the Shijing, so it culminates in the works of Wang Niansun and Zhang Yougao, and then the sort of pivot, if you like, into modern linguistics is Wang Li, who in this book, so he wrote this book actually. First of all, he wrote a book about Qing Dynasty linguistics, and actually we have tried in a class to translate it into English, and different students did different quality of work, of course. So it's not really ready for, you know, publication or something. But if you feel inspired by me mentioning that and thinking I must help, you know, tell the heathens about the achievements of Chinese historical phonology, you know, I would welcome you to join in that project. Yeah. Anyhow, but then Wang Li himself, sorry, I thought, did I have it already? No, here it is. Yeah. So Wang Li himself also made the last contribution, if you like, to this tradition by splitting the Zhe group into the Zhe and the Wei groups. Yeah. And there is sort of still in China, a lot of people do Old Chinese following the categories. I would say this is typically true, for instance, paleographers, right? They use the rhyme categories of Wang Li, which are a slightly tweaked version of the rhyme categories of the Qing Dynasty. And because I don't read the Chinese very well, actually, I don't have a good sense. This is why I want to translate this book into English. Yeah, I don't have a good sense of like how, like what kind of logic was being used by the Qing philologists for, you know, like if two Qing philologists are disagreeing with each other about rhyme categories, what does that look like in terms of how they're reasoning and what kind of evidence they bring to bear? And no one has written about that in the West. And in fact, actually, there's little of that in even Wang Li's book. It's very sort of exegetical, Wang Li's book. But anyhow, now I go back and say, okay, what's the traditional approach to analyzing rhyme groups in the Shijing? And here's another sort of terminological quibbling of mine, just like rank and division. Rhyme category is what we say for Middle Chinese, and rhyme group is what we say for Old Chinese. And please try to observe that. Yeah. Okay, so you identify a group of words that rhymed in Old Chinese and define it in terms of rhymes of the Guanyin, and use a name of a rhyme in the Guanyin as a label for these groups. Now, this is confusing, right? Because then you have one term like dong, and then it means one thing in Middle Chinese, and it means another thing in Old Chinese. But if you like, what the Qing philologists did was they said, look, well, here, like, the dong words in Middle Chinese are a sort of center of gravity for a certain rhyme phenomena in Old Chinese. So we will sort of throw in other characters that rhyme with dong words into the rhyme group of Old Chinese. And just to give you an example of that, so the zhe rhyme included, the zhe rhyme group included all of these rhyme categories. You understand, right? We're sort of, in the Cheiyun, you have something like 210 rhyme categories, and we're sort of hoovering them up into groups, which are things that could rhyme together in Old Chinese, yeah? And the precise methodology for doing that is not very clear to me, but it's something like saying, well, Zai and Yo could rhyme, yeah? So we unite them into one category. Okay. And then I already covered that. Right, and then this is also just a terminological thing, and I think it's where I'll end. The rhymes are kind of arranged into three categories. So the yin sheng, the ru sheng, and the yang sheng, which for our purposes are sort of let's say open syllables, closed syllables, and nasal coda syllables. And actually, I don't know, a phonologist will tell me if nasal syllables are closed or not. They probably are closed, but let's say closed with stops and closed with nasals. Yeah. Oh yeah, I'll stop there because otherwise I'll go over time.